avoid legal snags by telling people they're being recorded. Dylan, you're
Yeah.
being recorded.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, I know, right?
all the time or just right now?
Just right now. Just right now. Don't worry. Everything else is off the record. This is Corey, and this is Dylan, and
Hello.
this is Battle of the Brands week or month 2. Our first show was our draft. The last show we had Armageddon and Big Fight Sunday.
Yeah. Oh fuck! I forgot to get my thing in name.
Don't worry, you got time. I'm sure you really sat and stewed on Big Fight Sunday.
Hey man, don't knock it. It was a Big Fight Sunday.
It was a big fight. A lot of big fights happened on that Sunday.
Hell yeah.
So I did not look at the polls for the last shows. Do you remember what things look like?
Yes, I do. After the draft.
Yeah, you won the draft pretty handedly.
It seemed like I won the draft. It was a little one-sided. I don't want to brag, but
yeah.
It's a little one-sided. So I had, after we did our first show last month, I had a look at the polls we put up, and both polls we tied. We were both exactly, everybody liked both our shows equally. So we, in 2 different polls, we tied 50-50. So we both won.
Now I'm going to ask you a very serious question. When I looked at the polls, no one had voted. Are you saying that we tied because no one voted, or did people actually vote?
Oh no, yeah, people did vote.
Okay, good.
On the EWA, I was
like, man, you really put a nice little shine on this that no one voted.
I mean, not a whole lot of people voted, but
hey, better than nothing, right?
On the EWA, on the Twitter poll, we were definitely 50-50. And then I went on the EWA and was like, vote for this, you fuckers, because we need results for the show.
We need content.
Yeah, and then they did vote, and we were a draw there as well. So 50-50 so far. We've split the board. People aren't sure which show to watch.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like, once again, I took Roman Reigns, which is always a detriment when it comes to online popularity opinions.
Yeah, but who did I pick that nobody likes?
I don't know. You picked a lot of people do like. I picked Jinder Mahal and Roman.
Oh, you do? Hang on. You picked Jinder Mahal. This is all on you. Apparently, yeah. I picked Sheamus, which apparently people don't like.
What? People don't like Sheamus? What the fuck?
What do you mean you don't like Sheamus? I'm like, dude, no offense, Corey, but you picked Jinder Mahal. I'm like, are you really going to put Sheamus in the same category as Jinder Mahal?
I love Sheamus.
Well, Sheamus is a good dude. So. Like, he's a big, imposing dude. He's got a great look. The guy can talk. He's a great wrestler. Right, he can do a lot of stuff. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you people want.
Everybody wants people to wrestle like junior heavyweights with flips and dives and big moves. No one just wants a guy who can just beat the fuck out of somebody.
Well, I think that both of our rosters, we tried to kind of diversify a little bit. Like we didn't just it wasn't just like super indie bullshit all the time. Like, I've got Sheamus and Cesaro, 2 big guys, stuff like this, and you've got Roman Reigns, he's a bigger guy. Like, he's not doing fucking planches all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've got a good we got a good range, I think.
Yeah. So do you want to do a brief little recap of what happened at your show, or do you want to save that for your bit?
I'll save that for my bit. Also, I don't remember a whole lot about it.
So okay,
I'm not good.
So as a quick reminder to maybe those who, it's been a while since they listened to the first episode, on the Raw brand, Eric Bischoff is firmly in control, and he has basically ran things his own unique way. Right now, Roman, after the results of Armageddon, AJ Styles is out of the club. He got turned on by Gallows and Anderson. Our tag team champions are Gallows and Anderson. We do not have a United States champion because Eric basically said that no one on the roster deserved the right to even say that they are going to be competing for the U.S. title. The women's champion is Naomi, and the world heavyweight champion is currently Roman Reigns.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. Week 1 of television post Armageddon. Show opens with and of course the big reveal at the end of it. My wild card from the first draft appeared at the end of the pay-per-view and laid out Roman Reigns after disguising himself as a cameraman, which was Chris Jericho. So week one, the show opens with big pyro and fanfare, and Chris Jericho comes out to the ring. He talks up how even though he spent years hating and despising Eric Bischoff based off of their relationship in WCW, he's more than happy to work with him now just by, just seeing how much money Eric Bischoff was willing to throw at him. He says that now that he's on Raw, he's here not to just be the biggest wrestling star, not to be the biggest rock star, not to be the biggest movie star on the Raw brand, but to be the biggest star in the world. Bischoff comes out. They share a big over-the-top buddy-buddy embrace. He comes in, basically reiterates what he told Roman Reigns last month, that he's here to put on the best show with the top stars in the industry. And if Roman's upset with what happened at the end of Armageddon, well, unfortunately, that's just business. Jericho chimes in and tells Roman, as such, that he's looking at the new number one contender for the world title. But Roman Reigns comes out and he wants a piece of Chris Jericho tonight. He doesn't want to wait until the next pay-per-view. He wants Jericho right here, right now. Crowd gets all into it because they're like, "Fuck yeah!" This main event caliber match gonna happen tonight. And Bischoff goes, "Oh no. Tonight, Roman, you're gonna face Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch in a handicap match because those guys were so eager to help you last month when you were having problems with the Bullet Club." So our cameras cut to ringside, and we see Ruby Riott sitting front row, and she flashes a front row ticket. We had a Feast or Fired match last month where Ruby Riott unfortunately drew the briefcase that said her employment with a company was terminated. So now she is simply here as a fan. But we are reminded that at Armageddon, she wasn't just a fan. She interfered in Kairi Sane's match against Nia Jax, and it ultimately led to Nia Jax getting the women's number one contendership briefcase that Kairi had won in the Feast or Fired match. Naomi comes out to do commentary because, speaking of Kairi and Nia, it's a rematch from the pay-per-view. Once again, though, Kairi gets distracted by Ruby Riott at ringside. Nia Jax takes advantage and gets the win. After the match, Nia takes her number one contendership briefcase and throws it at Naomi, just basically letting her know that she's coming for her next at the end of the month at the pay-per-view. We go backstage where Kushida is being interviewed, and he's being asked about the time limit draw he had against Timothy Thatcher at Armageddon. Before he can really say anything, Thatcher interrupts and says that he's better than Kushida in every possible way, and that next week he's going to prove it. Our next match is the Lucha House Party versus Mustache Mountain. Mustache Mountain get the win. They offer the Lucha Boys a handshake, but instead of shaking their hands, all three members of the Lucha House Party jump Tyler Bate and Trent Seven and leave them laying in the ring. Next up, we have Jeff Hardy versus the aforementioned Jinder Mahal. Dylan, would you believe it that Jeff Hardy wins?
I cannot believe that such a match of that magnitude would be given away for free on television.
Well, don't worry about that, because after Jeff wins, Mike Kanellis comes out and reminds Jeff Hardy that he and Maria have filed a restraining order against Jeff Hardy, and that now Jeff is in violation of that. So security storm the ring, and Jeff Hardy is hauled out and is escorted out of the building. Main event time, we have Roman Reigns versus Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan. Jericho is out doing commentary, and right now the match is kind of hesitant to start out because just last month Burch and Lorcan were friends with Roman and were helping him fight off the Bullet Club, but now they're in this unenviable position of having to fight their friend. Bischoff comes out on the stage after seeing how slow it's starting and basically gives Oney and Danny an ultimatum. They either win tonight and get a title shot against Gallows and Anderson for the tag belts at the end of the month, or they never get another tag match again. Or another tag title match again. So that, kicks up the intensity of the match a little bit. Towards the end of the match, there is a ref bump, and Gallows and Anderson hop the guardrail and jump Roman as he's getting distracted by Jericho running his mouth. They give him the magic killer on the outside of the ring, roll him back in. Oney Lorcan's completely unaware of what's happened, pins him for the win. Post-match, Gallows and Anderson beat up Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch now before they basically haul up a unconscious Roman, and Jericho gives him the Judas effect to rub salt in the wound. The show ends with Gallows, Anderson, and Jericho holding up the belts. So that's the end of week one. you have any thoughts on that?
I dig it. I like the idea that Carlos Anderson and Jericho are working together because like they're all champions. That's a good angle that may or may not factor into my plans as well. I thought it interesting that Gallows and Anderson clearly have a thing against Roman Reigns, right? Because Jericho does. But like the problem with that match is that their hands are kind of tied. Because if Roman Reigns wins, that's bad news for their group because he's probably going to come after them and doesn't help Jericho. But if the other team wins, then that means that Gallows and Anderson, as a heel team, would be forced to have to fight Lorcan and Birch, which they might not want to do, you know?
Yeah, well, last month it was established that Gallows and Anderson work for Bischoff. That Eric Bischoff kind of flouted the whole Bullet Club and NWO background, and that they basically are kind of like his children essentially. And Gallows and Anderson were all for it. AJ was a little bit reluctant, and that may or may not have played a factor in why AJ got turned on by Gallows and Anderson.
I hear AJ Styles is more of a Paul Heyman guy anyway.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. They're huge, all three of them, really.
Little joke.
Little jokes. Week 2 show starts with Roman's coming out to the ring alone. He says he's tired of the games. He's tired of Bischoff, treating him, like shit. And he wants, either Jericho, Bischoff, or the club to come out, or he's going to go backstage and start looking for him. Well, instead, on the Titantron, Bischoff appears. Or actually, no, I apologize. I'm out of order there. Instead of Bischoff or any of their music playing, Randy Orton's music plays. And the Viper shows up and comes to the ring instead. And he's like, Roman, you keep talking about how tired you are of being treated like a toy. Well, I'm tired of you getting all the spotlight and attention. Because if we ever faced off one-on-one, I could beat you easily. Roman and Randy were in an elimination style match last month. Randy was the second person eliminated from the match to decide the first champion. Well, before anything could get any more escalated from there, Montez Ford comes out. Montez Ford was one of the last two guys in that match. And he said that he was in the final 2 with Roman, and last week he wasn't even on TV, and that's just not going to fly. Bischoff then appears on the Tron, and he says, well, it's unfortunate for all of you. I'm not in the arena tonight. I have some urgent business to attend to. And in the background, you can hear the sound of like champagne bottles popping, Jericho, Gallows, and Anderson laughing. They're like at a strip club or something. And, but Randy and Montez Ford gave him an idea. Tonight's a triple threat, non-title, of course. If Montez Ford or Randy get the win, they get the first shot at Jericho. Bischoff means the person who wins at the pay-per-view. Up next is Timothy Thatcher versus Angel Garza. Thatcher submits Garza with an armbar. Kushida watches from the entrance ramp, and as Thatcher walks past him, you can basically be heard saying, beat that. We cut back to ringside, and Ruby Riott is there again with another front row ticket. I don't know how she's affording all of these now she's not employed, but, fans are fans. Nia Jax is out in a handicap match against some local talent. She gets a win pretty easily as Naomi kind of watches on. But a commotion breaks out because Kairi Sane has jumped Ruby Riott, and the two are fighting in the crowd. Up next, we have Trent Seven versus Kalisto. Kalisto wins after some Lucha House Party style shenanigans. We cut backstage, and Breezango are confronting Oni, Lorcan, and Danny Burch, and they're mad because those guys are getting the first shot at the tag titles when Breezango made it to the finals of the tag tournament last month. Oni and Burch say, they're fighters and that they'll put their spot on the line next week against Breezango. We get a vignette stating that Charlotte's going to be returning next week. Before we cut to a live video feed from Cameron, North Carolina, Jeff Hardy's hometown, where Mike and Maria Kanellis are kind of just walking around going, oh, this place is really, it's a hick town. There's a lot of meth people here. There's a bunch of rednecks. No wonder Jeff Hardy comes from, is the way he is if this is his hometown, and that he's clearly not a suitable competitor for the Raw brand, and that Mike and Maria are going to be petitioning Bischoff to have Hardy removed from the roster because he's not a good fit. Main event time, triple threat, Randy Orton versus Montez Ford versus Roman Reigns. Randy gets rolled up by Montez Ford and gets eliminated very quickly to his shock. Orton is getting dragged away by security, and Ford and Reigns are, at that point, Montez Ford and Roman have a really competitive back and forth. Ultimately, Roman getting the win. However, the new stable of the company, the Raw brand, a group titled Just Business, rush in from the crowd once more and beat up Roman. Gallows and Anderson and Jericho were all lying. They were not at a strip club someplace far away. They'd been there the whole night. Montez Ford tries to help out, but ends up, getting taken out by a code breaker. A hooded figure appears from the crowd and catches Anderson with a springboard forearm strike. Gallows turns and takes a discus clothesline, and Jericho and the boys, backpedal out of the ring as the hooded man reveals himself to be AJ Styles. Roman gets up, and as he's getting up, AJ hits a Pele kick on him and leaves the ring alone. And that is the end of week 2.
Ooh.
Any thoughts on that?
Interesting. You're clearly making you've clearly got a little main event kind of situation going on there. You know what I mean? Like you're laying out the players pretty well. Like you can see Jericho is the main guy. Orton and Montez Ford want to be main guys, but AJ Styles is in there, main guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm digging that. I like how you're keeping like Kairi Sane on TV. I like how you're not just making her fight Nia Jax over and over again until she gets concussed and goes back to Japan. I feel like
until Nia Jax picks her up and throws her at some ring stairs and damn near kills her.
Fucks her up again. I'm glad you're going down a different route with that. That's good.
Yeah.
The show's looking pretty good so far. I can't deny that.
All right, so week 3, Just Business opens up the show, and they call out AJ Styles. The camera cuts out to the crowd, and AJ's kind of standing in the upper deck area. Anderson and Gallows tell him, that they, costing him the title last month, at Armageddon, it wasn't personal. It was just business, wink, wink. But they've talked to Eric, and because they're such great friends with AJ and have been for years, Eric is open to bringing AJ Styles back into the fold if he's willing to play ball. Jericho tells AJ, he's always respected and admired him and would love to do business with him, though he needs to show that he can be part of the team first. So tonight, he's facing Roman Reigns to soften him up for Judgment Day. Styles just, he doesn't really respond. He's just up in the crowd and then just leaves. Up next, we have Tyler Bate versus Grand Metalik. Bate wins with the Tyler driver, and Lucha House Party tries to jump him afterwards, but Trent Seven's able to chase him off. We cut to Roman backstage. He says that, he's been getting beaten up and left laying in the ring now for over a month, but he's still the champion, and that, nothing Just Business can do is going to change that. That he's going to keep getting up, and he's going to keep moving forward, and he's going to keep knocking him down. Next up is Nia Jax and Charlotte, the returning Charlotte, versus Naomi and Kairi Sane. Ruby Riot's once again in the front row, and she attempts to cost Kairi the match again, but Charlotte's not letting her. Charlotte last month was called out by Naomi, saying that, you've accomplished a lot, but everything you do is just a, pale imitation of who your father was. So you can see it's kind of messed with Charlotte a bit. So the ending is Nia Jax powerbombs Naomi onto the ring steps outside of the match, and it just gets, the match is just thrown out. Too much chaos going on. Ruby Riott and Kairi are fighting. Charlotte's just kind of, walked away from everything. Naomi's getting murdered by Nia in the ring steps, which seems to be a recurring theme. Naomi tries to stand up on her own power, but she can't, and the medics end up having to come out and do a stretcher job and get her out of there. Next up is Breezango versus Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan. It's scheduled to happen, but where Breezango, our cameras cut backstage, and the two are laying in a heap of broken tables. As Lorcan and Burch watch on, they get blindsided by Gallows and Anderson, who leave them laying. Next up is Kushida versus Angel Garza. Kushida wins even quicker than Timothy Thatcher with the hoverboard lock, and Thatcher is kind of fuming backstage as he watches on. Montez Ford is backstage cutting a promo, talks about how Eric Bischoff is allowing Just Business to turn Raw into a madhouse, and how even though he lost last week, his goal is to keep climbing for that world title shot, and it starts tonight against Mike Kanellis. But RKO out of nowhere, Randy Orton drops him backstage and just kind of snickers and walks off. However, the match is still scheduled to go on. It's Mike Kanellis versus Montez Ford. Ford manages to get out to the ring, but he's not in the best shape, and Mike Kanellis ends up putting him away. Jeff Hardy comes out, but is immediately getting pulled away from the Kanellis family by security, who once again are reinforcing that restraining order. And main event time is AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. AJ Styles wins a very competitive match. There's no shenanigans involved. It's just AJ gets a win. But after the match, Gallows and Anderson come out and give AJ a little golf clap as they cheer him on. But AJ, ends up ignoring them and leaves on his own. So that's the end of week 3.
Okay.
Any thoughts there?
I like how a lot of your kind of storylines are weaving in and out of each other. Like, you can see Randy Orton and Montez Ford are having a thing, but that you've tied that into like the kind of Mike Kanellis, Jeff Hardy thing. You know what I mean? Like, poor Anil Garza.
Yeah. Yep. Anil Garza is really drawing the short straw. It's him and Jinder.
I mean, I feel like he'll be able to bounce back though.
Oh yeah. That's the thing about Anil Garza. They repair very quickly.
Very resilient.
Yeah. They can take up a lot of damage.
They can take a punch.
They can take a punch. They can take a good fisting. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Week 4, the show starts with the entire Raw roster standing around the ring and Eric Bischoff in the middle. He announces that it has come to his attention that some people are not happy with how he's running his brand, so now it's a little time for some corrective maintenance. This show is going to have a lot of announcements. And he's starting with a big one. He said, over the last few weeks, a certain former women's roster member has been sitting in the front row and interfering with matches. Well, if Ruby Riott wants to be on the roster so bad, then consider it done. Effective as of now, Ruby Riott is back on the roster, and she will be facing the 2 women she pissed off last week at Judgment Day, which is the name of the upcoming pay-per-view, Kairi Sane and Charlotte. It's going to be a triple threat. Also, Eric keeps getting sent these massive expense bills from these security companies that they've been using at live events, and was told that there was a restraining order in effect somewhere. Camera cuts over to Mike and Maria, who look very nervous suddenly, and it cuts back to Eric. He's like, I've looked into it, and I found out there is actually no restraining order in effect. Upon hearing this, Jeff Hardy slides into the ring and immediately dives over the top rope onto Mike and all the other heels on the roster. And a huge, full-out, massive fight breaks out between everybody, and it leads to commercial. When we come back to commercial, it's Breezango versus Gallows and Anderson. Breezango wants revenge for what happened to them last week, where they got their chance to get their rematch taken away from them. Anderson and Gallows beat the hell out of them. It's a bad one. After the match, though, Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan jumped them from behind for once, and Gallows and Anderson, basically head for the hills. Lorcan grabs Mike and says, you guys have been so busy kissing Bischoff and Jericho's ass, you completely overlooked the toughest brawlers on the roster, and that they promised to bring the belts home with them at Judgment Day. Up next is Kushida and Mustache Mountain versus Timothy Thatcher and Lucha House Party. Timothy Thatcher looks absolutely miserable being surrounded by Lucha House Party, who are, loud and vibrant and just obnoxious. A large section of the match is basically an anything you can do, I can do better between Thatcher and Kushida, as they basically try to outstretch and outsubmit their opponents, basically showcase who's the better submission wrestler. Lince Dorado gets involved, who is the designated manager of Lucha House Party, and the match breaks down from there. However, Kushida is able to lock the hoverboard lock onto Kalisto in the center of the ring, and Kalisto taps. Post-match, Thatcher and Kushida once again exchanging words, and Eric Bischoff comes out. He mentions that, months ago, he said no one deserved the right to become the U.S. champion, but now he sees 2 men who have potential. So Timothy Thatcher and Kushida will be facing off in a best-of-7 match to determine the new United States champion starting at Judgment Day. The segment ends with Thatcher promising that he's going to make Kushida tap. We cut backstage, and Ruby Riott is bickering with Eric Bischoff. She says that she'll do a match against Charlotte and Kairi at Judgment Day, but she wants an incentive. He makes the match a number 1 contenders match because I think we drafted too few women because I only have 5 on the roster, and I realized that I need to start. Yeah, we'll address that soon. Mm-hmm. So he makes the match a number 1 contenders match. Before he can even get a moment of solace, Mike Kanellis and Maria approach and apologize for the fake restraining order, but they just don't believe it's safe for their family to have Jeff Hardy on the roster. Eric tells Mike that basically he can just suck it up, and that this Sunday he's facing Jeff Hardy one-on-one. Montez Ford versus Randy Orton is scheduled to happen, but it doesn't because Randy jumps Montez during his entrance and beats the hell out of him before the match can even start. Randy gets on the mic, says Montez Ford should have stuck to just being a funny guy in the tag division, but now he's pissed off the Viper, and at Judgment Day he's going to end him. Nia Jax is backstage gloating about what she did to Naomi last week and states that last that she's heard, Naomi's not even going to be able to make it to Armageddon or to Judgment Day, so she expects just to have the title handed over to her. And our main event time, Chris Jericho versus everyone's favorite wrestler, Angel Garza. Jericho makes really quick work out of Garza before wanting Roman to fight him one-on-one. Roman comes out, charges the ring, and drills Jericho with a spear. But before he could get any more licks in, Gallows and Anderson jump him from behind. Jericho recovers and tells Roman that they have one more surprise for him at Judgment Day. There's one more big announcement that AJ Styles will be the guest referee at Judgment Day, and that it's just business. Show ends with Roman getting beaten up, and the camera cuts to AJ Styles just watching from the crowd. And that is the end of week 4.
Man, your whole show seems so professional, like so well put together. You know what I mean? Like, there's always like this big like impending sense of dread for me when I get closer and closer to whenever I have to bullshit my way through my Smackdown. I'm like, you have like really good storylines. They all weave in and out together. You know, everybody gets a look in. You know.
Yeah, it's like I said, we'll talk a little bit after, like, we'll get through Judgment Day and we'll talk about, you know, kind of overall the month and some issues that I've noticed with trying to do these.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll get to that because I have some thoughts about how things are so far. So Judgment Day, the lineup is Randy Orton versus Montez Ford, Mike Kanellis versus Jeff Hardy, Gallows and Anderson versus Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch for the tag titles. Ruby Riott versus Kyrie versus Charlotte for the number 1 contendership to the women's title. The first of the best of 7 series between Timothy Thatcher and Kushida. Women's title match between Nia Jax and Naomi. And the World Heavyweight title, Jericho versus Roman Reigns with special guest referee AJ Styles.
That's a very... How many matches have you got?
I think 7.
That's pretty good. Can I just
6.
interject? I would like to very quickly say that
Yes.
I,
7.
both on this show and on the last show we did, was very, very close to doing a best of 7 series with 2 of my guys as well. And I don't know why this month I didn't go with it. It seems like that was a lucky call because you picked up the slack with that one.
Oh yeah, I mean I've always kind of been going that direction with Kushida and Thatcher. I just think like they're 2 guys that could have just a really good series of matches against one another.
Yeah.
So Judgment Day, Randy Orton versus Montez Ford. Randy Orton jumps Ford again during his entrance and just basically spends a lot of time just kicking Montez Ford's ass. Randy's just kind of playing with him right now. He goes for the RKO, but Ford reverses it into a schoolboy for the win. Montez celebrates, up the entrance ramp while Randy's throwing a fit at ringside. Next up, Mike Kanellis versus Jeff Hardy. Kanellis spends a lot of the match trying to avoid Jeff, but his luck runs out. This is a fight that kind of breaks out all through the arena. They're fighting in the crowd. They're fighting through the stands. But Kanellis starts to take advantage of that due to Jeff not being really a brawler, more of a flyer. Jeff ends up hitting a desperation move, and when he goes for the swanton, Maria jumps up and blinds him with an aerosol can. Mike hits the spear and gets the win. World Tag Title match, Gallows and Anderson versus Lorcan and Burch. Early on, Oney Lorcan's arm gets hurt on the outside, and Gallows and Anderson just basically chew him apart. Burch and Lorcan put up a good fight, but ultimately lose when Danny takes a magic killer, and Oney Lorcan's just too beat up to break up the pin. Number 1 contenders match, Ruby Riott versus Kyrie versus Charlotte. Kyrie and Charlotte start the match just beating the hell out of Ruby Riott before they get a super competitive outing against one another once Ruby's out of the way. Kyrie's still really wobbly from all of the attacks by Ruby and Nia over the last few weeks, and Charlotte takes advantage of that. No matter what Charlotte throws at her, though, Kyrie's able to, get out of the pins, escape from the holds, and Charlotte is getting really frustrated. There's a moment when the referee is on the outside checking on Ruby that Charlotte's able to, there's a moment where she could very easily, cheat, grab a chair and take out Kyrie with it, but chooses not to. And unfortunately, that goes against her as Ruby's able to sneak back in and roll her up for the win. Ruby Riott, wins the match and is the new number 1 contender, as Charlotte is just kind of left, frustrated because this is now the 3rd time she has tried to walk the straight and narrow, and it's cost her. Next up is the best of 7 match between Timothy Thatcher and Kushida. This is the work rate match of the night. These guys go all out. Timothy spends the match obsessed with trying to get Kushida to tap out, that he ignores every attempt there is to make a pin, and that comes back to haunt him as Kushida rolls him up while he's attempting to lock in an arm bar. So Kushida takes the first of 7. Women's title match, we have Nia Jax versus Naomi. Nia's out, but Naomi's nowhere to be seen. They play her music and no one comes out. Nia takes the mic to announce that because Naomi can't compete, she's the new women's champion by default. However, before she's able to finish her thoughts, Naomi's music hits again, and Naomi very slowly and very painfully makes her way to the ring. She looks like she's having a lot of trouble walking. The referee asks if she's sure she wants to compete, but she is. Nia attempts to bulldoze her in the corner, but Naomi dives out of the way with relative ease. She's been playing possum this whole time. Naomi's able to withstand the onslaught and retains her title after hitting Nia with a split-legged moonsault. And main event time, we have Roman Reigns puts the world title on the line against Chris Jericho with AJ Styles as the referee. AJ looks like he wants to be anywhere else in the world. He's wearing the ref shirt, just looks miserable being out there. Roman doesn't like the situation and is really reluctant to also be in the match, but he's going to fight on. Jericho is just looking absolutely thrilled with himself. This is a no-lose situation for him. Throughout the match, this is even more reinforced as there's multiple incidences where AJ misses an eye poke, or when Roman goes for a pin, the count's kind of slow, a little slow. And at one point, Gallows and Anderson tried to interfere, but Breezango end up, running him off before they could get to the ring. And right as Roman looks to be getting some memento, though, Jericho just blatantly kicks Roman below the belt in front of AJ. And he and AJ both kind of have a laugh at Roman's misery together, all buddy-buddy. But then AJ hits the Pele kick on Jericho, just like he did Roman 2 weeks before that. Roman ends up getting to his feet. He hits the spear. AJ counts it 1, 2, 3. Roman retains. Jericho's in absolute disbelief. Bischoff is beside himself. Roman tries to shake AJ's hand, but AJ just flips him off and leaves the ring alone. And that's where we end the pay-per-view. Roman standing tall in the middle of the ring, world title still in his possession. AJ Styles, going off on his own and just business. Just right when they thought that everything was in their favor, they are on the outs. So that is the end of the pay-per-view.
I like it. I dig the storyline with AJ Styles, because I think the obvious thing would have been, to put him with Gallows and Anderson. And I like the way that you've kind of mixed that up a bit and made AJ like a bit of a loner, like a tweener. You know what I mean? Like doing his own thing. Interesting angle. I like that. I like the Naomi bit where she was like not really injured. She kind of came down and like kicked some ass.
Yeah,
I like that bit. Yeah, you got some really good stuff going on your show.
Yeah, and we can save the overall thing until after you do your shows. That way we can kind of both get our thoughts, because I think we're both on the same line of thought. But yeah, go ahead. Let's hear what SmackDown's got going on.
Okay. Well, let's start this shit show off. The way you did it, the way you do your thing, you kind of go like week to week.
Yes.
Whereas I think last time I kind of went like story to story. You know what I mean? I would talk about one specific storyline. I'd tell you how it develops over the 4 weeks leading to the show, and then I do that with a different storyline,
Yeah.
So I might do that. So let's start off with a little recap of what happened on my last show. It was called Big Fight Sunday, I think.
Yes, Big
Is
Fight
that what
Sunday.
it's called? Sheamus versus Cesaro. I can't remember who won that one. I've forgotten who won a lot of these. I think Sheamus won that, didn't he? I don't fucking.
Maybe.
Well, anyway, it doesn't
I
matter.
didn't take notes on your stuff. I
No,
apologize.
I didn't take notes of my stuff. We had Aleister Black versus Bray Wyatt, which I believe Bray Wyatt won. We had a 5-way women's ladder match for the women's championship, which Carmella won. We had a gauntlet match for the tag titles, which Luke Harper and Eric Rowan won. We had a match, triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. Brian Kendrick, Shinsuke Nakamura, Roderick Strong. Brian Kendrick won that, Intercontinental Champion. And then we had Adam Cole versus Kevin Steen. Adam Cole wins after Daniel Bryan interfered to attack Kevin Steen. Okay.
Okay.
So those are pretty. That's you can kind of see where a lot of the storylines for this month are gonna go. But first off, we're gonna talk about the Revival versus the New Day. In the gauntlet, the tag team gauntlet match from the pay-per-view, the Revival and the New Day fought each other at some point. The New Day snuck a pin on the Revival. The Revival got very annoyed about this and beat the fuck out of the New Day, which led the Undisputed Era to pin the New Day very easily in that match. So the Revival and the New Day are obviously pissed at each other. The New Day are pissed that the Revival cost them that kind of title shot, and the Revival are pissed because the New Day spend their time clowning around with pancakes and unicorns and sparkles and bullshit. And they're like, do you remember whenever tag teams used to fight instead of just, dicking around like this? So there's like a clear kind of disparity between old school wrestling and new school wrestling with the New Day and the Revival. And the New Day are all about entertainment, whereas the Revival are all about just kicking some ass, So they're like, well, we're not having this. We can't. So every time the New Day come out and are just doing stuff on the show, well, at first the Revival come out on the first show after Big Fight Sunday, and they're like, we've had it up to here. We're not putting up with this fucking pancake bullshit anymore. Next week, the New Day come out and they're doing their shenanigans. They're throwing cereal into the crowd. They're buying scratch cards for people. They're doing whatever it is they do. They're crazy.
Yeah.
And the Revival just like blindside them from behind and beat the fuck out of them. This includes Xavier Woods, who was the manager, but the Revival are just not in the mood. And they blindside all three of them, and they put Woods out of action. Not that he was seeing a whole lot of action before that, because he was just a manager. But
he's out on injury.
In real life, he is not in my. Well, he is now, I guess.
Well, I was just saying, like, you were putting him out on injury.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna give an injury now. So what they're saying is, we're gonna take you out individually. You guys are a great unit, despite your clowning. But if we take you all out one by one, you can't beat us in a tag team match, because there'll only be one of you left. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the New Day are really annoyed now because they're just clowning around with their shenanigans. But once you take out one of their own, you take out Woods, you're taking out part of the New Day. So they're not happy about this. So they're trying to figure out how they can get the Revival back. They're like, what can we do? How can we show them that we're the best? And none of their suggestions have anything to do with tag team wrestling, They're like, should we have a pancake eating competition? Should we do that? What if we had they're trying to figure out good ways to do it. And eventually the Revival are like, straight attacks. This is the way it is. We want to fight you guys. We're going to make no bones about it. We don't want no pancakes. We don't want no whatever. We just want the Revival versus the New Day. Straight up. That's all it is. The New Day are like, okay, easy. We can do that. So, first match booked for the pay-per-view, whose name I have a name for now, but I think I'll save the name for when we get to it.
Okay.
The first match on that show is going to be the Revival versus the New Day. There's no stipulation. Straight up tag team match. So that's going to be the first match. The second match is going to involve Ember Moon, and she is a lovely babyface because she just, she's got a really cool look. She comes out and she does her thing. And Alexa Bliss has her own kind of look, but it's a very different look from Ember Moon. Alexa Bliss, thinks she's a little bit classier kind of person than Ember Moon. You know what I mean? She takes not necessarily that she takes more care of herself than Ember Moon, but that's the vibe she's giving off. She's like, let's be fair here. People came to see me, Alexa Bliss. You know, Ember Moon, she's fun, she's nice, she's good to have around the house or around the company, but she's no Alexa Bliss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's really making a name for herself. You know, Alexa Bliss is only 5 feet tall, but that's all you need. She's that, you know, entertaining. That's the vibe she's giving off. She's like, I'm this good, and I'm only 5 feet tall. You know, I'm the best. I'm the reason people come here to watch the show. It's for me, Alexa Bliss. They don't come for Ember Moon. Ember Moon, obviously not a big fan of this kind of talk, this kind of smack talk. She's like, I can't sit back and let you run your mouth like this. This is uncool. But of course, Alexa Bliss kind of steps away. She's like, we're not throwing hands. We don't throw hands till I say so, which is unfair. Why does she have the call on that? You know, why is she the one that calls the shots? We'll never know. That's pro wrestling for you. You know, that's just the way it is. So this happens a lot where Alexa Bliss, you know, she's got her own talk show and shit. She'll come out and it doesn't matter who she's interviewing because she'll always end up turning the conversation back to herself. She's that kind of, you know, very egotistical.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just riling up Ember Moon just with these little, like, all, you know, a couple of weeks she's just jabbing her like, you know what, you're you know, you shouldn't even have been in that women's match. You were in that women's ladder match because you're a woman on the roster, but not because you're good. You know Alexa Bliss. And so they get into a brawl. You know, at some point, Ember Moon's just like, dude, I'm Ember fucking Moon. I'd eat you alive. You know what I mean? So they keep, like, Ember Moon keeps trying to get her hands on Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss keeps slipping away. And because of that, they decide, whoever they are, the higher ups, the authority, the unseen force. What was Vince Russo called in WCW?
I can't remember.
The powers that be or something like that.
The powers that be.
Was that it?
That sounds right.
Okay. Some bullshit like that, but that doesn't involve Vince Russo at all. Declares that what we're going to do is we're going to have Ember Moon versus Alexa Bliss at the pay-per-view to sort their differences out. You want to sort your differences out, do it in the wrestling ring. So they say that sounds good to us. What else have we got? Cesaro and Sheamus fought on the first pay-per-view. Honest to God, I should have looked this up, but for some reason I didn't write it down, and I have no idea which one of those guys won that match. I think it was Sheamus. I think he cheated.
Okay.
Let's just listen. I'm gonna rewrite my own continuity here if that's incorrect. I'm gonna just assume Sheamus won by cheating because he's that kind of guy, you know. He doesn't really need to cheat against most other people, but Cesaro, different breed of cat altogether. Cesaro is the kind of guy who can match Sheamus with, you know, the strength and the brutality kind of angle. So Sheamus can usually muscle his way through most other opponents, but he had to kind of take a little shortcut when it came to Cesaro. So before that match from last week or last month, Sheamus was going around squashing, you know, jobbers and talking about how he was the best wrestler in the world and how he was the greatest, which is why Cesaro and Sheamus fought to begin with. So now Sheamus has underhandedly beaten Cesaro. He's out there on every show crowing about how he's the best wrestler. That was a big theme from my last show, about how he's the best. And he's like, well, here's the proof. I said I was, and I had proof. Cesaro didn't believe me, so I beat Cesaro. What more proof do I need? You know what I mean? I'm the best. Mm-hmm. I should be in the main event scene. I should be fighting Adam Cole right now. Adam Cole is like, I don't know about that. I've got other stuff going on, which will be revealed later. And so Cesaro is like, I feel like we still got unfinished business. You're not the best wrestler in the world because you cheated to beat me. That's not fair, you know. And then Sheamus is like, oh, wow, whatever. You know, a win's a win. What more do you want? But Cesaro and Sheamus decide, all right, fine. We'll do it one more time. We'll have another match. And this will be it. This will be the decider. Whoever wins this is de facto the best wrestler in the world. That's the stipulation. Whoever wins is the best. Okay?
Yeah.
And who better than Sheamus and Cesaro? I couldn't think of any two other people who could possibly be in this situation. I mean, Cesaro is fucking one of the best anyway. Sheamus, yes, I don't know if I call Sheamus the best in the world, but he's gonna try and become the best in the world by beating Cesaro at the pay-per-view. So that's what they're gonna be fighting about. Fourth, we have, yeah, I know, right? Can you believe that? I'm really good at my storylines. The next match we have is going to involve Brian Kendrick. He was the Intercontinental Champion. Shinsuke Nakamura hit his finish on Roderick Strong and was about to pin him at the pay-per-view whenever Brian Kendrick ran in, threw Shinsuke out of the ring, pinned Roderick Strong. He became the Intercontinental Champion. Blew everybody's mind, including his. He was like, I cannot believe I've done this. I cannot believe, I'm in the hallowed ranks of former Intercontinental Champions such as The Miz and The Mighty. I've done it. I've risen through the ranks. I'm the Intercontinental Champion. Me, Brian Kendrick, with my sweet jacket. I've finally done it. So he's having a great time. He's having a very good time. Shinsuke, not so much. In a theme similar to the last match, he's like, dude, you cheated to win. That's not fair. I had that match won. I basically had that match won. I hit my finish. He speaks really good English now, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Funny how that worked out. So he's like, dude, that's not, But Brian Kendrick's like, listen, I'd love to give you a rematch. Really, I would. But there's a rule with the Intercontinental Championship where if you've beaten a guy for the title, he can't challenge you again, I assume. I'm pretty sure this is one of the rules. This is what Brian Kendrick is assuming. And I beat you. If you look at the history books, it'll say Brian Kendrick beat Shinsuke Nakamura and Roderick Strong. So I don't have to fight either of you ever again. I'm the Intercontinental Champion. And who else wants to fight? Anybody else? And of course, everybody else is like busy with their own bullshit. So Shinsuke is like, dude, I'm not going anywhere. This has got to be it. Brian Kendrick's like, man, I'd like to, really, I would, but the rules, etc. Then they get like an old historian guy to look through the rule book. Turns out that was never a rule at all. And Brian Kendrick, boy, did he have egg on his face that day.
I tell you what.
He's like, boy, you really made me out to be a fool in front of 6 million people or however many people watch SmackDown.
Boy, if our ratings are 6 million, fuck real life.
They got to be close by now. Our shows have been pretty fucking good,
I think so, yeah.
Well, I don't know. What do they normally get? 1 million? 2 million?
If I think like on like the worst Raws ever done, they did 1.5.
All right. Well, I'll take that. I'll take 100. I'll take 1.5 million. That's good enough for me. So Brian Kendrick's like, if I'm gonna shut your mouth, then I'm gonna do it for good. We're gonna have one match, but then that's the end of it. As long as Brian Kendrick is the Intercontinental Champion, Shinsuke Nakamura cannot challenge for the championship. Is that a fair deal? And Shinsuke is like, yeah, whatever. It's a lot of real blood feuds going on with my guys. So like, yeah, okay, whatever. So we're gonna have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Brian Kendrick for the Intercontinental Championship, which a lot of people wouldn't have thought would be a money feud, but I salivating at the idea. Maybe that's just me, and especially for the Intercontinental Championship. So that's how that match came about. That's another match on the show. The fifth match is going to involve the tag team champions. We've got Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. They won the Gauntlet match last month. They're the champions. The Undisputed Era come out and they're like, well, we didn't know you were going to be in that match. That was you weren't advertised. We knew who was going to be in the match. We were the last ones, and we were supposed to be the last ones in the match. We pinned the New Day after the Revival beat them up, but that's beside the point. We technically won that match. We should be the tag team champions. Shouldn't be, Harper and Rowan. That's bullshit. But then, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable come out, and they had been having words with the Undisputed Era last month. So they're like, once again, it's like the Undisputed Era, jump in the line. This is ridiculous. Thought you had that match won last month or at the pay-per-view. You're just trying to weasel your way into another title shot. This is ridiculous. You need to step back. So they're like, well, why don't we settle this like men with a Tiddlywinks competition? And then they're like, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable are like, no, why don't we settle this like men in a wrestling match? Does not make more sense. And then the Undisputed Era had to concede. They're like, you know what? That does sound like a more logical way to do business. So what they did was we had as a continuation of the feud from last month, we come back with more Bobby versus Bobby action. Bobby Roode versus Bobby Fish. We're gonna see who the real winner of these two teams are. Which is funny because Luke Harper and Eric Rowan are just kind of like, they're very silent champions. They're just kind of like watching all this stuff happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just sitting back and be like, all right, like they're very silent. So the Undisputed Era and Chad Gable and Bobby Roode are like kind of jumping through hoops just to beat each other to prove that they're the logical next contenders for the championships, right? So 1 week we have Bobby Roode versus Bobby Fish. Bobby Roode wins that match. Bobby Fish tries to sneak a win, but he doesn't, can't sneak it. So Bobby Roode is de facto the king of the Bobbies.
Yep, King Bobby.
King Bobby. But we'll save that for my next pay-per-view, which is going to be King of the Bobbies.
Oh, I think it's King of the Ring, but no.
Bobby of the Ring.
Bobby of the Ring.
Yeah.
It's a British police thing, I guess.
It's very, very, very strange. So then the week after that, we have Chad Gable versus Kyle O'Reilly. And Kyle O'Reilly wins that one after some sneaky interference, some sneaky cheating. They're like, well, this is ridiculous. There's no point in having singles matches when we're tag teams. If we're trying to see who's going to be the tag team champions, let's have a tag team match. So we get it. We finally get Chad Gable, Bobby Roode versus Undisputed Era. They're going to have a tag team match. This is going to decide who's going to be the number one contenders for the tag team championships. Who's going to go on to the pay-per-view and fight for the tag titles. They have a match, and that match is interrupted by Harper and Rowan, who just beat the fuck out of both teams.
They got tired of just watching.
Yeah, they just they still don't say anything. They're like, this is what we think. This is exactly what we think of you guys. And they just kind of wreck both teams and leave them laying there. So the decision is, because technically that went to a no decision, they said, right, we're going to have a triple threat match for the tag team championships. Bobby Roode, Chad Gable, Undisputed Era, Harper and Rowan, all three teams in the ring at once. We're going to have our triple threat tag team championship match. So that's that match sorted out. The next match, Carmella is the women's champion. She won the ladder match. She's very, very excited about that. She's showing off her bling. But the problem is she pushed Shayna Baszler off the ladder to win that match. So now Shayna Baszler, unhappy. Not a happy camper, as they say. She's very, very angry. And when Shayna Baszler is unhappy, you might want to step back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Carmella spends a lot of the next month just running away. Because Shayna Baszler will come out and say, listen, I'm going to make my claim right here. This is the way it's going to be. Shayna Baszler is going to get that heavyweight, or the women's championship match that I want. And I'm going to get my championship back. It's my championship. Carmella's just keeping it warm. Carmella, is very kind of like tiptoey. She's very, as soon as there's like any sign of Shayna Baszler in the place, she's out of there. She doesn't really want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because she's going to get her ass kicked. Shayna Baszler will go around like choking people out. She'll do like a squash match. She'll choke somebody out immediately. She's like, I want Carmella. They'll be backstage doing interviews and stuff like this. Shayna Baszler will just choke somebody out. She's like, I want Carmella. Carmella's like, no, don't think so. That doesn't look safe to me. But Shayna Baszler is just racking shop. Like, she's making it very clear. She's like, this is the way it's going to go. You know what I mean? I want Carmella. And I'm going to keep racking things until I get Carmella. Like, we have matches. We have, like, Carmella's kind of like, I'll defend the championship against somebody else if you want. You know what I mean? Who else wants a shot? Alexa Bliss, Ember Moon, Asuka. You guys want a shot? But Shayna Baszler is only, well, obviously they do want a shot, but they have the looming specter of Shayna Baszler over their shoulder. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, if Alexa Bliss takes up Carmella's challenge to be the next challenger for the women's championship, Alexa Bliss now has to worry about Shayna Baszler beating the fuck out of her to take her spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those two are a little apprehensive about that. Asuka, by the way, she's been very silent as well, much like Harper and Rowan. She's kind of taken a back seat. She's watching everything unfold. She's not afraid to square up against Shayna Baszler, but at the same time, she's watching all these women kind of fighting amongst themselves, and she's happy to take a step back for a second. You know what I mean? She wasn't happy that she lost the ladder match, but then a ladder match is that's not the same as a straight up one-on-one competitive match. So a ladder match can be swept under the rug. That's no big deal to her. She's just kind of taking a step back. So eventually, after Shayna Baszler just wrecking shop and choking everybody out, like choking backstage announcers and fucking the timekeeper for no reason, eventually the higher ups, the powers that be that aren't Vince Russo, make the women's championship match official. Carmella versus Shayna Baszler for the pay-per-view. The next match is involving Kevin Steen and Daniel Bryan. As you remember, Kevin Steen fought Adam Cole at the show for the championship. Daniel Bryan interfered and stopped him. And he's like, listen, I don't like Kevin Steen at all. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his face. I don't like his wrestling moves. I don't like the way he presents himself. I don't like how Kevin Steen is your average family man, because the average family man, the average American man, is a fucking idiot. They're out here just, consuming all this bullshit fast food stuff and contributing to the death of the planet quicker just so that they can, live their ordinary, boring ass life and not have to make any changes, because change is a scary thing.
Yes.
So like Daniel Bryan's making a lot of good points, but he's doing it in that lovely heel, the way I love that where they're like, clearly they're telling the truth, but at the same time they're the bad guys,
Oh yeah.
And it takes like a really good guy to be able to do that. You've got Bryan can do that, Punk can do that, William Regal can do that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Guys like that. So Kevin Steen's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I want my belt. I want to fight for the championship, and I want to have to dick around with this. I want to eat my pizza, and I want my heavyweight championship. Adam Cole, of course, is over the moon with this, because he's already kind of like, set aside Cesaro and Sheamus. He's like, you guys are busy with your thing. He's looking at his former challenger in Kevin Steen, who's busy with Daniel Bryan. He's over the moon with this. He's like, yeah, you guys fight. This is perfectly fine with me. I think I'll take the month off. Daniel Bryan, of course, wants Adam Cole's championship as well, but he's like, I gotta put down the scourge of the world, the representation of the common man, because the common man needs to change. You're lazy and fat and entitled, and it's not on. So Kevin Steen and Daniel Bryan decide to have a match. Kevin Steen had cost Daniel Bryan his shot at Adam Cole to begin with. Then Daniel Bryan screwed Kevin Steen out of the shot at the pay-per-view. They're going to have a big match to settle this now. And whoever wins this is going to, not really, but is de facto going to be the next challenger for Adam Cole.
Yeah.
So it's effectively a number one contendership match. It's a grudge match more than anything. And then that brings us to the last match on my card, the main event. Now, last month, Bray Wyatt and Aleister Black had what I described as a spook off.
Yep, this is the great spook off.
Yeah, which I didn't go into any elaborate detail about, because I want people to use their imaginations. Whatever you think a spook off is, that's what it is, But originally, Aleister Black was one of the guys who disputed Adam Cole's just kind of acceptance of the championship for himself, and he got distracted by Bray Wyatt. So this month, he's like, I'm not having it, Adam Cole. I want to fight you. Bray Wyatt comes out, as he often does, and of course, again, Adam Cole's rubbing his hands with glee. He's like, "Yep, you guys do your thing. I'll take the month off."
Yeah.
So Bray Wyatt comes out, and he's like, "We haven't finished our spooky bullshit yet. This is not acceptable. There's more spookiness to be had. Why don't you want to have a fight in the swamp?" And Aleister Black's like, "No, I really don't want that. I don't think I've wanted anything less in my entire life, But Bray Wyatt is very insistent. You know what he's like. You know exactly what Bray Wyatt's like. He's a very persuasive man. This Bray Wyatt is like the kind of the current one we see, where it's like the TV kids show host, but he's also the Fiend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he'll just turn up and be spooky sometimes, but then sometimes he'll turn up in a sweater vest and pants and be like, "Hey, I'm nice and friendly." So his nice and friendly incarnation is trying to talk to Aleister Black, and he's like, "Listen, I'm going to talk to you man to man because you don't want this to turn into Fiend to Fiend. You know what I mean? We're going to talk like men, but we still haven't finished our business. Wouldn't you rather embrace the darkness and come to the Bray Wyatt side because it's lovely over here? I used to be a putz just like you. I used to have a good look and a good promo, but I just used to languish around in the mid card and I went nowhere. And then I changed. I got the Fiend. I got a job as a kids show host, which was a real boost to my income. Everything changed for me, and I can change it for you. All you have to do is make a couple of changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aleister Black's like, I'm fucking fed up of you and your spooky bullshit. I don't want any of this. I want the heavyweight championship. Bray Wyatt's like, all right, why don't we do this? Why don't we have the spookiest match of all time? Again, that's just a tagline. Do you remember whenever Edge and Randy Orton had the greatest wrestling match of all time? That was just a tagline, right? Same thing here.
It wasn't the stipulation. It was just said it's going to be this.
So this isn't really the spookiest match of all time. It's just, it's Bray Wyatt. He's trying to, pop the marks a little bit, So they have the spookiest match of all time, which is not at the pay-per-view. This is not at the pay-per-view. They just because Bray Wyatt wants Aleister Black to join the spooky side, and Aleister Black wants the heavyweight championship. They make a deal. If Bray Wyatt wins, then Aleister Black will join the spook side, and Bray Wyatt will have the title shot at at Adam Cole at the pay-per-view. But if Aleister Black wins, Bray Wyatt has to shut his mouth, and Aleister Black gets the title shot at the pay-per-view. Obviously, by now, Adam Cole is like, guys, no, why do you got to drag me into this, Can you just let me, I've already booked some vacation time. I don't really want to take it off, but, as a champion, his hands are tied. He has to do what he has to do. So, in the middle of this fucking show, on free television, I give away Aleister Black versus Bray Wyatt.
In the spookiest match of all time?
The spookiest match of all time. And I gotta say, you had to see it to believe it, but it really was pretty spooky. Honest to God, there's a lot of spooks.
No false advertising in this.
No, I think it delivered. I couldn't even describe to you just how spooky it was, but my goodness, scared the hell out of me. Very spooky. But Aleister Black wins after some shady interference by Roderick Strong on behalf of the Undisputed Era. It all goes wrong for them, and Aleister Black wins. So now Adam Cole's pissed off about this, and he's like, well, the week before the pay-per-view, we've already established the main event is going to be Aleister Black versus Adam Cole, and Adam Cole's like, no, can we not kind of change this around a little bit? Can we cut a little bit of slack? But the power-ups? No, the higher-ups or the powers that be, or any of those guys are like, come on, Adam Cole, we've been cutting you a lot of slack right now. You're going to have to fucking fight. And Adam Cole's a little pissed off about that, but he's like, that's fine. Why don't we have a little warm-up match? Let's have Aleister Black versus Roderick Strong on the show before the pay-per-view. And the higher-ups buy that for some reason. They're like, well, there's no issue right here. So this match happens. And I say happens, but it doesn't. Roddy Strong comes out. He's ready to go. Aleister Black comes up with the big, the coffin thing.
Yep.
And the Undisputed Era beat the fuck out of him. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, they jump him at the entrance ramp. And Roderick Strong joins in. They all beat him up. That's it. You would think, hey, they've done a good job of putting out their biggest contender to Adam Cole's championship. However, the higher-ups not happy about this whatsoever. So they've decided to keep the match as it is. But Aleister Black, might be a little bit worse for wear. That's just the way it is. The match is still happening. However, the Undisputed Era are banned from ringside. So Roderick Strong not allowed it. He was supposed to be at ringside, Adam Cole's corner. He's banned. Then Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly had a match earlier on the show, so they weren't going to be there anyway. But they're not allowed to be anywhere near ringside. It's a straight one-on-one match, all right? Undisputed Era banned from ringside. Adam Cole, not happy about that. But there it is. So the main event is going to be Adam Cole versus Aleister Black, okay?
Okay.
We're going to wrap this up real quickly. My pay-per-view is called Super Punch Showdown.
Okay.
You know, like you punch somebody really hard?
Yeah,
It's a
but
super punch, right? So Super Punch Showdown. Match number 1, Revival versus New Day. The New Day bring pancakes into the ring near the end of the match. The referee, like the Revival, are like, what the fuck? The referee isn't sure if pancakes are an illegal weapon or not. Like, it's a foreign object, but is it illegal to have pancakes in the ring? Nobody knows. Right, because they don't hurt. So, like, is it illegal? So the Revival get confused and distracted. New Day pull up the old roll up and they win that match via pancake shenanigans, and the Revival are fucking livid. So the New Day win the first match. Match number 2, Ember Moon versus Alexa Bliss. Ember Moon wins after Alexa Bliss tries to cheat, but it backfires, and Ember Moon takes advantage and wins. Number 3, Sheamus versus Cesaro to see what was the stipulation for this? Who's the best in the world?
Yeah.
Cesaro wins. He is officially a better wrestler than Sheamus. Poor Sheamus. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Brian Kendrick for the Intercontinental Championship, where if Shinsuke loses, he's not allowed to fight Brian Kendrick for the championship again. All right? That's a stipulation. Brian Kendrick wins the match.
Oh.
Brian Kendrick beats Shinsuke Nakamura. However, there is like controversy to the end of that match.
Okay.
You know, Shinsuke's legs under the rope, which should be like a break, but you know, whatever. There's controversy at the end of that anyway. So you can see how that's going to lead itself off into a story. Match number 5, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable versus the Undisputed Era versus Harper and Rowan for the Tag Team Championships. The Undisputed Era win. They find a way. Yep, new champs. We finally got some new champions. Because it's a triple threat, I thought that's a good way to get the belts off Harper and Rowan for now. You know?
Yeah, without hurting them.
Exactly. Like, they're still big guys, but there's gonna have plans for them coming out of this in you'll see in the next show. We've already got plans for them. So, Undisputed Era win the tag team titles. Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, the Undisputed Era are the new tag team champions. Match number 6, Carmella versus Shayna Baszler for the Women's Championship. Unsurprisingly to everybody, Shayna Baszler wins in fairly convincing fashion. You know what I mean? It's not a total squash. It's not like a 10 seconds long, but Shayna Baszler, pretty much overpowers Carmella, wins the belt, which is what Carmella was afraid of happening anyway. But hey, she got it for a month. No shame there. That's all good.
No shame.
But Shayna Baszler is your new women's champion. So that's 2 championships that have changed hands in the show. Can you believe that? Keeping people on their toes. Match number 7, Danny Bryan versus Kevin Steen. Kevin Steen wins because he's just better. Danny Bryan's frustrated about this. He's like, this isn't fair. This isn't justice. He's not the better wrestler. He's not the better worker. He deserves to pay for his crimes against humanity. This isn't fair. So there's clearly issue with those 2 guys. However, Kevin Steen believes himself to be the number 1 contender to whoever the champion is coming out of this show. Daniel Bryan, obviously pissed off about that. The main event is Adam Cole versus Aleister Black, which I feel like would be, I don't even know, I can't remember if they fought already, but that would be a great, I'm sure they have in NXT. I'm going to have to go look that up, but that would be a great match. Right? Adam Cole, Aleister Black. So, Adam Cole, Aleister Black, Undisputed Era not allowed at ringside. So, while they've already beaten up Aleister Black the week before, Adam Cole is still a little apprehensive, but not having his boys in the back. But doesn't matter. They're going to go out and have a big match, all right? So they're going to have a match. Right at the end of the match, suspense. The lights go out. Uh, what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
That's usually the sign of what, a debut?
Well, it would be if it wasn't for a certain spooky member of the roster.
Oh, that's right. There's a spook.
There's a spooky member of the roster who doesn't like Aleister Black. The lights go out, they come back on, and Bray Wyatt's outside the ring, and he's looking down at Aleister Black. So there's a distraction. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna have Bray Wyatt actually like lay his hands on Aleister Black during the match. Doesn't matter. The point is, Bray Wyatt makes an appearance. Adam Cole takes advantage of the situation, manages to leave with his championship. So, wait a minute though. Aleister Black is really pissed off, but he's also really hurt. Like we said, the Undisputed Era had ambushed him on SmackDown, 2 days before this? You know, this is a pay-per-view on Sunday. SmackDown's on a Friday. So he was already under the weather going into this match. He's already just gone through a fucking 20-minute match. And now Bray Wyatt, like the lights go off, the lights turn back on again. Bray Wyatt's now in the middle of the ring. Aleister Black's in the corner. Bray Wyatt's looking at him. He's got a spooky ass fucking face mask. He's like, shit's gonna go down this time, fella. And then the lights go out a third time, right? And then Bray Wyatt's like, I didn't do this. And the lights come back on a third time. Dean Ambrose is in the ring. He kicks Bray Wyatt in the gut, hits him with a double arm DDT. And he runs around that ring and he says, that's the end of this spooky bullshit. I've had enough of this fucking parading around in the dark. All of this garbage fucking, what is this? What the fuck is any of this? We're supposed to be wrestlers. We're supposed to be men. We're supposed to be fighters. That's what this is. So Dean Ambrose, who was my surprise draft pick from 2 months ago, finally made an appearance. And so that's how the show ends, with Dean Ambrose standing over Bray Wyatt's broken ass carcass.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like that a lot. Because that's something I could buy. I could buy No, he's Dean Ambrose. He's not Jon Moxley.
Well, actually, I mean, I was gonna say this, but I like the name Jon Moxley better than Dean Ambrose. So
That's fair.
I think I will be calling him just for my own, like, the sake of my own brain and the way that I can't seem to get anybody's name right. I feel like if I just call him Jon Moxley, I'll be able to stay on the right track with that,
That's fair. Yeah, no, I like that. Because that's very believable. I could absolutely believe Moxley showing up and being like, all right, the spook shit, that's done, that's over with. I'm gonna start just dropping, Wyatt on his head. Plus, there's a couple of different things there I liked. I really liked. You've taken two feuds that were ultimately very disappointing in real life, and you are sprucing them up, which is Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan and Wyatt and Moxley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like I'm gonna go down. Spoiler alert for next month, but I think that there is mileage in Ambrose or Moxley. I'm already doing it, for fuck's sake. I've already got their names wrong. Moxley and Wyatt, and I've got some interesting plans for that, and I'm very excited to see how all that plays out. So there's gonna be some changes to Bray Wyatt as well.
That's fair.
But that'll all be revealed.
He's gonna be Husky Harris.
He's gonna have like 6 different personalities, and there's gonna be like a remote control with buttons on it. So you press the button, and then that's what Bray Wyatt you get that day. It's a very complicated system that I have going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like it.
So there we go. How long has this show been so far?
I think we're at an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
Hour and 16 minutes.
That's okay. So, yeah, those are our 2 shows. Anything that we want to discuss about them?
I think the thing ultimately that we were both pretty much hinting at is that our women's rosters are very small, and that has been a problem. I thought it would I thought it made sense, like, oh, every division gets 5 people, but it's easier for the men's division because you can take like a mid-card guy or half a tag team and use them in one place or the other. But when you have 5 women, you have 5 women.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just a thing I don't think we kind of factored in when we were doing the draft to begin with. But
Yeah.
afterwards, we're like, oh yeah. So like, if we were to, so but next month, will we do like a mini draft for some extra people?
I was thinking that could be like maybe instead of doing a show, we can do like another month worth of show and then a pay-per-view. We do a supplementary draft, as well as like you can cut people from your roster if this isn't working like I thought it would. I'm just gonna cut this person, or
Do you mean
even
like a bonus episode?
yeah, or we could just do it in place of the regular episode. Either or.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That way we can kind of fill the rosters out now that we've been doing it for a while. Because I mean, ultimately, like you have the far better tag division. My tag division, I'm not crazy about, and I think my booking reflects that with Gallows and Anderson being far more occupied with stuff with Jericho and the main event stuff than they are their own division.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, that's the thing. If we were to do like a supplement draft, all I would want is women and tag teams.
Yep.
Because like, and I don't even need a whole lot, but I'm like, I need women just to sharpen that division up a little bit, and tag teams, like you said, the beauty of the tag teams is if your men's roster is a bit rough, you can split that up and have two fresh guys for that show,
Yeah.
But if you do that, you need to replace it with another tag team. So I'd like to have a couple in reserve just in case something like that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so those are our shows, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's it.
Anybody listening to this, let us know what you think. Who had the better show. I Corey, you put a lot of effort into like building up your build up into your shows and into the pay-per-view. Honestly to God, I kind of built my pay-per-view first and then came up with the stories later. So my focus was just like, eat the best matches I could think of, and then I would just, spin it off after that to try and figure out how to get there. So I think that like you had a lot of really good build up to your show that
That's
made
fair.
sense, and you used your characters, you weaved them in and out. It was all very, very impressive. Very happy
Thank
with
you.
that. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of your ideas are just super fun. So I think I've been really enjoying hearing what's going on with yours, and your pay-per-view names are the best.
Thank you. Because the thing is, like, if we didn't do a draft of like the pay-per-view names or anything like that, so like,
No, it's just whatever you make up.
but exactly. So like, at first I was afraid, like, because we already talk about this stuff too much before the recording, we just kind of go. So I would be really afraid of like if you're like my pay-per-view is Armageddon, and then I'm like my pay-per-view is also called Armageddon, because those are already names for pay-per-views. So I'm like, well, if I just come up with made up bullshit, I know for a fact Corey's not gonna have the same pay-per-view name, so I'll get away with it.
Well, so here's another thing that I want to do, and that is, so it's every 3 months there's like 4 big WB shows a year. There's SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania, and usually those shows are like the same, like co-branded.
Yeah.
So next show, because I don't know, we could do a bonus episode, and then the next show we both do SummerSlam, and by that we take like our top 3 matches and we put it together essentially. So we won't do like an interpromotional like match against one of my guys versus yours, but it would be like 3 Raw matches, 3 SmackDown matches. That's SummerSlam. So 1 pay-per-view.
I mean, why wouldn't you do 4 and have like 8 matches on the show?
Well, because normally we have like 6 or 7.
I had 8 on mine.
Oh, I had like 7. So
Yeah, well, I had 6
yeah, we
last
could do
time.
4 then.
So like, yeah, it kind of depends, I guess.
Yeah, we can do 4 then.
Yeah. Well, it's SummerSlam, you want to go all out. It's a big show, Yes, and then we'll have people like vote on like who had the better kind of draft and some. Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. We're gonna put a poll up for this on Twitter at some point. Leave comments in the comment section on YouTube as to who you think had the better show. And we'll put a poll up on Twitter soon, on the EWA and all the other places. Let us know who you thought had the better show. We look forward to hearing from everybody. I know I do.
Yes.
And is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
thanks for listening. And we'll be back soon with some more fun wrestling bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not good at ending the show. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you soon.
Later.
You pricks.